So this is Chris. We're now outside looking at a sample grip. This is a special grip that we are using to help beginners to see how they should hold the club. You can see that there's a little white area here that shows how the hand should be held. You can see this is kind of parallels, this V parallels the V of your inside of your hand and your thumb, and this is called the V in the swing or in the grip, and you want the V to be pointing toward your right shoulder if you're a right-hander. So you notice that when you hold a club, of course you have to hold it with the end of the club straight, but you notice that the club could be, your hand could be twisted one way or the other, and the correct way to do it is to have your hand twisted a little bit in this direction so that this V would be pointing toward your right shoulder. And you just notice how the thumb is a little bit on the side of the club. This is your left thumb now. Okay, so this is the way that you want to hold the club, and you want it to be fairly relaxed. So when it's time to put the other hand on the club, you can see you can do the same thing, have it twisted one way or the other. You want to have it twisted so that, again, the V formed between your inside of your hand and the inside of the thumb and the inside of the hand. That V is sort of pointing toward your right shoulder. So you could be holding it in a number of ways, but you want to be holding it in that fashion. And you can see now, for instance, the club, if we look at this end of the club is straight, and when this club is straight like this is when the end of the when you take your grip, you want the club to be in this sort of orientation. So this edge is pointing square to your target, which in this case is in this direction. When you put your hands together, you put the left hand on first, get it oriented, and then the right hand goes on top with the middle part of your palm here fitting on top of your left thumb. So now we have both V's pointing toward your right shoulder. And you should hold the club so that you're not holding it very tightly in your hand. Okay. And this is Chris again. We have another teaching aid that we use to help beginners feel the pattern of the swing, the circular motion where your club just kind of rides along this circle, and helps you get a feeling for the swing. You also keep your arms fairly close to your sides when you make this motion, and so your body turns back and forth as your arms guide the club up and down the circle. You don't want your club to go far away from the circle like I'm doing now. You want it to go on the circle. Your wrist bend, as I'm showing now, because you're relaxed with your grip and it stays on the circle as it does it. And you bend enough so that when you make this motion, your club would get down to the ball, so you'd actually be making a little divot of scraping the ground. And there's a couple other things we can do with this teaching aid, and that's something that we will go into with the lesson also. Okay, this is Chris again at John Prince Golf. This is another example of an intermediate lesson that would review some of the key elements of a swing for the intermediate player. You'll notice there's a pointer on the ground that's a few inches away from my feet and pointed parallel to our target line. And we want to practice being able to get our club to get over that line and have the club aligned properly, so that when we actually make our downswing, we also are over this line and not in a position where we're farther away, like for instance out here with our club. We also want to make sure our left wrist is oriented correctly. You can see what I'm doing here, turning it back and forth. You notice when I go this way with this arched left wrist, now the club is pointing to the right, and when I have it in the correct alignment, called the flat left wrist, where it's aligned with the back of the left forearm, then that's in the correct position. So these are a few things we can review and practice if that's something that is missing from an intermediate player's swing. If we do this correctly, if you make this swing, then you would notice that on the downswing, sure enough, if we can get into this position where the club is parallel to and right over the club on the ground, and the ball will go straight. If we have our flat left wrist, which we also do. So that's an example of some of the things we do with an intermediate level. Chris Masterton again here at John Prince Golf. Example of one thing we might do with a more advanced student is do some one-arm swings, either with the right or left arm. It's just hard to do and exposes certain flaws, and your swing won't be perfect, but when you take a swing that is correct, you'll see a more of a what we call a connected position between your left arm and left shoulder and left chest. We'll see a little bit more, we have to be a little more correct and exact with our left wrist hinging and cocking, and the timing of our swing has to be a little bit better, and if we happen to do these things right, it'll help us not have to compensate with the right side so much.